Hello and thanks for joining us on Nationwide. We're live on the network service of the NTA. I'm Hawa Salihu Adama. As at 11:25 p.m. of April the 22nd, 2020, 91 new cases of COVID-19 was reported in Nigeria. The new cases bring the total number of confirmed cases in Nigeria to 873. The breakdown of the newly confirmed cases are as follows: 74 in Lagos, 5 in Katsina, 4 in Ogun State, 2 in Edo State, 2 in Delta State, and 1 each in Kwara, Oyo, FCT, as well as Adamawa. We now join Mitaire Ikpen, who is standing by at the PTF Briefing Center here in the Federal Capital Territory, with highlights of today's briefing.
Okay, thank you very much, Hawa. The Presidential Task Force today felicitated with Muslims all over the country as they prepare to commence the Ramadan fast, and it advises the Muslim Ummah to ensure that all advisories concerning the coronavirus pandemic are adhered to, especially as the country at this moment guards against the trend of community transmission. And again, the situation in Kano continues to be of concern to the Presidential Task Force, and it says it has intensified contact tracing in Kano, especially with a view to getting all those who are suspected to have the coronavirus, and also to prevent the city from becoming the next epicenter of the coronavirus in Nigeria. The Presidential Task Force said additional test kits and lab equipment have been dispatched to Kano. However, it says that the molecular laboratory in Kano is still closed for decontamination, which is ongoing.
Okay, thank you, Bitari. I was just wondering if any decision was taken on schools adopting online learning, and also asking or requesting that parents pay for that.
The Minister of Education was not around to answer a question on that today, but we know that the ministry already said that it has already begun online educational services in about 15 states. And just to also add, that the Minister of Foreign Affairs today used the opportunity to strongly condemn reports of discrimination against Nigerians in China. It says that it has received reports of racist treatments being meted out to Nigerians in China. And about now, I am being joined by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Geoffrey Oyama, who is going to throw more light into this issue of racial discrimination in China. Thank you for joining us on Nationwide, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, please, can you throw more light? What kind of discriminatory treatments are being meted out to Nigerians in China from reports that you've received?
Yes, okay. There was a question of Nigerians being removed from their accommodation and residences and not being able to go back in. Landlords no longer letting property to them, and a number of them found themselves in the streets. There are the cases of taking blood in hospital, which we did not know was a means of testing. And there's also stories of the ban of Nigerians in shops, restaurants, and malls. So, and the narratives, have been consistent. And we've spoken to our officials there, and they're telling us that indeed that was what has been happening.
But Nigeria, like you alluded to, has excellent relations with China. So what brought about this twist in our relationship?
Well, I mean, twist in our relationship, well, Chinese claim that there were some passengers that came on a flight, amongst the last flights that came into China from Africa, and that a significant number of them tested positive for the COVID-19, among which were also a significant number of Nigerians. And so for that reason, they put in place a very robust mechanism of containment, isolation and contact tracing. And that it was in the context of that, so for them, these were measures, to secure those who were tested positive and also to secure the city.
So what is being done to put our relations back on track?
Well, first and foremost, those Nigerians who are there must not be discriminated against. That's just the bottom line, The relationship at the national level is good. But of course, this element is extremely troubling and is something that could, of course, impact, on the bilateral relations between the two countries. China is also a sort of a federation. You have the central government and then you have the provinces. So this is in a province, and obviously there are measures being taken at that level. But nevertheless, we all know that the central government has a very important sway. So they are doing everything in their powers, they're telling us, and some people are confirming that, to address in a manner more humanely those issues. We can understand that a country needs to take measures to secure the health and security, of its citizens, But it's when those measures become discriminatory that we have problems.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, thank you very much, Howard. That's much from here at this time.
Thank you very much, Mitairi. And moving on, President Muhammadu Buhari has called on fellow ECOWAS leaders to look beyond the challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic and tap into various opportunities that it presents for the betterment of lives in member countries. Speaking at an extraordinary ECOWAS summit on COVID-19 held via teleconferencing, President Buhari appealed for more collaboration to save the region from the deadly pandemic through sharing of experiences and best practices. And in the meantime, President Muhammadu Buhari has been elected to lead other leaders in the West African sub-region in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. The decision was taken at the extraordinary summit of the ECOWAS held via teleconferencing. The Nigeria Governors Forum is sustaining far-reaching measures in curbing the spread of the coronavirus pandemic. Abubakar Usman Akwanga reports that the commitment was strengthened during the forum's 6th teleconferencing meeting.
In a 7-paragraph communique issued at the end of the 6th teleconference meeting, the forum resolved to sustain partnership with federal government, multilateral organizations, and the private sectors across 25 states to contain the ravaging COVID-19 with emphasis on community response to transmission. The forum also resolved to work closely with the Nigerian Center for Disease Control to ensure adequate supply of personal protective equipment to prevent the lives of those in the front line of the fight against the pandemic. The Governors Forum, through its chairman and governor of Ekiti State, Kayode Fayemi, says a strategic partnership with the Presidential Task Force will be sustained and also agreed to the implementation of interstate lockdown to mitigate spread of the virus. The forum commiserated with President Muhammadu Buhari and the country over the demise of the Chief of Staff, late Malam Abba Kyari, and others who lost their lives from the deadly virus and observed a minute silence in repose of their souls. In Abuja, Abubakar Usman Akwanga, NTA News.
And China is scaling up efforts to build a new image in the fight against coronavirus on the global stage as the Asian country increases assistance and donations of medical supplies to countries affected by COVID-19, including Nigeria. The latest of the supplies comes from the China General Chamber of Commerce in Nigeria. Usman Aliyu has that.
Chinese support to Nigeria comes amid worrying rise in the number of infections registered in recent days across states. With the efforts by the federal and state governments in adopting sweeping measures to contain community transmission, the demand for medical equipment are increasingly needed at this moment. The Chinese government this time, through its Chamber of Commerce, donated respirators and surgical masks, gloves, gowns, goggles, infrared thermometers and shoes to Nigeria.
Despite the daunting task remaining at home, China firmly supports Nigeria's fight against the outbreak and stands ready to assist, if needed, to the best of its ability.
And in this war against the virus, we should protect each other and we should assist each other.
The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 says Nigeria identifies with China for its rapid response and transparency exhibited in fighting the pandemic.
You have also provided us with assistance, technical assistance in terms of manpower. Nigeria is very grateful for this. The PTF is very grateful.
Nigeria is also asking for more post-COVID-19 interventions to jumpstart the economy. In Abuja, Usman Aliyu, NTA News.
And we told you earlier that President Muhammadu Buhari has been elected to lead all the leaders in the West African sub-region in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. Let's hear more from the Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina.
Challenge that COVID-19 has posed to economies in West Africa was discussed back and forth, and there were articulations of what to do to combat COVID and what to do post-COVID, which is very important. That is what is expected of leadership, to think ahead. So the West African leaders discussed how to tackle the period of COVID-19 and what to do post-COVID. Now, at the end of it all, it was decided that there should be a champion who will lead the response of the sub-region. And that champion is President Muhammadu Buhari of Nigeria. So our president is going to lead the response of West Africa to the challenge of COVID-19.
And state governments in Nigeria say efforts are being intensified to contain the coronavirus pandemic in the country at the subnational levels. Speaking on NTA's Good Morning Nigeria, which continued discussion on COVID-19 situation reports in states, they revealed that there is increased awareness campaign to help citizens adhere to hygiene practices and social distancing. Oluseye Adeagbo has more.
We are instituting community surveillance, ensuring that we are following, actively searching for these cases and ensure that they are put under treatment. So many fake news are coming out of Kano.
Dr. Tijani Hussaini, coordinator Kano State Technical Response Team on COVID-19, speaking on the recent fatalities and the suspension of testing in the state. Sokoto State has recently appeared on the list of states with COVID-19 cases, and the state's chairman, Task Force on COVID-19, Dr. Muhammadu Ali Nami, explains how measures have been intensified on contact tracing.
We are trying to find out where this index gets infected. Otherwise, I think we have to agree with the fact that there is some level of community transmission in the state.
Representatives from Delta State and the FCT also expressed various engagements in containing the spread of COVID-19 at their separate levels, with some challenges still hampering their efforts.
We've been able to also maintain a very high level of surveillance on the contact persons.
When you get to the communities, they are not interested in testing. They are more interested in the palliative. So FCT administration has started distributing palliatives.
The guest believes stopping the spread of COVID-19 in Nigeria and even ending its scourge can be realized with continuous support from the federal government and adequate cooperation from the public. In Abuja, Olusheye Adiagbo, NTA News.
We take some messages now. Nationwide returns shortly.
Fellow Nigerians, follow the instructions on social distancing. The irresponsibility of the few can lead to the death of many. Your freedom ends where other people's rights begin. The security agencies have risen to the challenges posed by this unprecedented situation with gallantry, and I commend them. I urge them to continue to maintain utmost vigilance, firmness, as well as restraint in enforcing the restriction orders while not neglecting statutory security responsibilities.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Dear brothers and sisters, in view of the COVID-19 pandemic we are currently challenged with, we at Al-Habibiyya Islamic Society enjoin all Muslims to adhere strictly to government directives geared towards stopping the spread of the virus. These measures include the stay-at-home order, washing of hands with soap and water, using hand sanitizers where water is not available, and other hygiene measures. We remind you all of the words of Allah in the Holy Quran, chapter 2, verse 195, which says, "And do not throw yourselves with your own hands into destruction." We also remind you of the hadith of the noble prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, which says, "Do not cause harm or return harm." Please stay at home and stay safe with continuous dua. This message is from Project Itfine of Al-Habibiyya Islamic Society. Al-Habibiyya Islamic Society, from Allah to you, a light.
Welcome there. Have you washed your hands?
I'm inside my house again. This thing not the key black man.
I don't know if it's misinformation or poor hygiene that will kill you first. Coronavirus is real, and good hygiene practice will save your life. Anyway, no hand washing, no eating.
I will not take care of it. That's one of the parents. Coronavirus is real and it's on the rise. But you can help yourself and help others to be safe. Remember, we can stop the spread. It's in your hands.
This message is from the Akinfade Foundation in partnership with the National Orientation Agency with support from MacArthur Foundation.
What be this coronavirus thing? Not true?
You see this coronavirus will be COVID-19. Now the whole world palaver. And it don't they kill many people for China, Italy, UK, US, Spain, and even for other countries them.
Okay, what can be the reason why they say make everybody tanda for house?
Now because if they waka pium go carry them from person we don't get them, you go carry come give your family them. Now so the thing take they kill other people for other country.
Okay, what can be that social distancing self?
You see social distance. Now make we no come close because this thing now from air and touch now with the contact. We suppose they at least 6 foot away from each other every time.
So okay, no be only to wash your hand and to sanitize them alone.
Make we not take this washing of hand thing take play, but make we come together, join hand as we take pursue Ebola, pursue this coronavirus. Make we be each other be keepers now.
In the face of the coronavirus pandemic, absolute precaution is needed to curb spread of the virus. It therefore becomes imperative that already used personal protective equipment should be appropriately disposed of to prevent the public from contracting the disease. Kenneth Nanim has more.
Face masks, hand gloves, coverall, aprons, and footwears are personal protective equipment worn by health workers, especially those that work at infectious disease control centers. The essence is to prevent them from getting infected by whatever disease they are treating. In the wake of coronavirus pandemic, everyone is being advised to apply protective measures to avoid spread and contraction of the virus. However, inappropriate disposal of these protective kits could lead to the spread of the virus.
When you are disposing PPE, you need to ensure there are special rooms to do the disposal. We call it doffing of the gown. So when you want to remove this, you need to get a particular infectious waste bin where you can put it, and you ensure that you remove the PPE under the supervision or guidance of your colleagues or even a senior colleague, so that whenever there is a break in any stage of putting it on and removing it, the person will be able to guide you and the correction will be made immediately.
Just right here is a disposed, used face mask, and this is exactly what the health experts are talking about, that persons who use face masks or hand gloves should make sure that they are appropriately disposed other than dumping them indiscriminately on the roadsides.
The viral video of a man disposing his personal protective equipment indiscriminately caught the attention of the relevant authorities, and this brought about this professional advice.
We're supposed to isolate the waste and put them in several receptacles. All the waste is expected to be incinerated. Yes, we have developed 2 sets of guidelines. One is on how to handle this infectious waste within the context of coronavirus COVID-19.
Kenneth Nanim, NTA News.
And it's time to join our Lagos Network Center, where Dotun is next in line with more stories. Dotun?
With the extension of the deadline for the restriction of flights at the nation's airports, there is an urgency among airport operators to design a post-COVID-19 action plan. Michael Olaleye, who was at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos, reports that an additional 300 British nationals were repatriated to London.
This is the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, the busiest airport in West Africa, now a shadow of itself. With the ambience around here, it is difficult to imagine that this facility handled more than 7 million passengers in 2019. In spite of the closure, there is still one flight available, a British Airways aircraft which conveyed more than 300 British citizens to the United Kingdom. It is the 4th flight since the British government injected £75 million to support repatriation of British citizens, their spouses and dependents. Although flight operations are on hold, bus skeletal services are being rendered as the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority is using this window to issue safety guidelines crucial to the post-COVID-19 era.
We do not just allow the airline operators to even go to sleep without having a contact with them. We are regularly having contact with them. We are issuing them circulars as to what to be doing now, even in this lockdown, particularly some trainings of their staff. And so the kind of maintenance that they carry out right at their base. And of course, they too are essential services personnel. They are allowed to come, so they are coming around to carry out some routine maintenance on the airplane.
The mandate before the sector is how to translate its robust plan into action for smooth operations once the pandemic is over. In Lagos, Michael Olaleye, NTA News.
306 persons who violated the lockdown order in Lagos State have been arraigned before the mobile court at the State Criminal Investigation Department, Kwanti Yaba. Abolore Ogbara reports that 88 of the violators are travelers.
The defaulters were arrested by the task force team from various parts of the state while carrying out enforcement of the lockdown order.
They took me yesterday night around 7:30 in the evening time.
I was going to give out the same palliatives to the people at Oluti.
I'm not night operator, but because of this situation, so I have no option but to do that.
Marcus Drambi is said to always flaunt around the Festac town with different identity cards, which he claimed were given to him by his boss in the police force. He faced the case of impersonation. The violators of the lockdown order pleaded guilty to the charge, and the judge ordered them to pay fines ranging from 5,000 naira to 10,000 naira. The court also ordered them to begin community service immediately for 2 hours. More than 800 defaulters of COVID-19 lockdown order have been arraigned before the mobile court since the beginning of the lockdown directive, while over 2,000 vehicles have been impounded for the same offense in Lagos. Abolore Ogbara, NT News.
The celebration of Earth Day is 50. This exciting feat demands that drums roll and series of rallies resonate to amplify the vision of the environmental movement to save the earth. This year, however, the day was marked in a different way because of the coronavirus pandemic. Jennifer Igwe tells us more.
This year, the COVID-19 pandemic has shown the need for more actions to promote a green and healthy environment.
We must act decisively to protect our planet from both the coronavirus and the existential threat of climate disruption. The current crisis is an unprecedented wake-up call. We need to turn the recovery into a real opportunity to do things right for the future.
All around the world, the Earth Day was celebrated devoid of pollution. Now, COVID-19 is indeed redefining the way we do things. In the past, celebrating Mother Earth Day would have been a big event, especially as this year marks the 50th anniversary of the global move. But all around the world, the celebration is online. Tweet chats, webinars, and other social media interaction was the tone for the celebration, and environmentalists emphasized the need for a greener world.
So it means that we really don't have to be all in one place. Communication, I can tell you, is ongoing and more vigorously now, because we see that if we do not take action now, we at the end of the day will lose out. We will be the ones most impacted, as we are seeing right now. The earth quietly, continuously, consistently is not stopping.
In this park in Lagos, environment activists gathered to plant trees, one each representing lives that have been lost to the coronavirus pandemic. In Lagos, Jennifer Igwe, NTA News.
And that's it from here. It's back to Hour in Abuja.
Sure, Dotun. But let's take a little break from COVID-19 related stories to look at some issues relating to finance and the economy. The federal government has received the report of the disbursement of the second phase of the Abuja funds recovered in 2017. Solicitor General of the Federation and Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Justice, Dayo Akpata, who received the report on behalf of the federal government, said openness and transparency will continue to be exhibited in the disbursement of the Abuja loot. Femi Okewo reports.
As part of the agreement that saw the release of the second batch of the Abuja loot to Nigeria, civil society organizations were to be commissioned to monitor the disbursement of the recovered loot. It is in this light that on the one-year anniversary of the commencement of the second phase of disbursement, about 20 civil society organizations submitted their report to the federal government on the successes and problems in this phase of disbursement.
It is on the basis of this that we signed the Open Government Partnership and
have continued to demonstrate commitment to its underlying principles, especially in the area of asset recoveries.
In view of the current lockdown occasioned by COVID-19, the report was presented through video conferencing, with the Federal Ministry of Justice being the hub, while the CSOs participated from their various centers.
As agreed in the tripartite agreement between the Nigerian government, the Switzerland government, and the World Bank, CSO monitoring was incorporated in that agreement.
The Federal Ministry of Justice is to study the report and make recommendations to the federal government on how to improve further disbursements. In Abuja, Femi Okewu, NTA News.
Meanwhile, in spite of the effects of the coronavirus pandemic, the Federation accounts gained 780.927 billion naira in March 2020, which represents a 34.3% increase over February's collection. Henshaw Ogubike, Director, Information at the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, in a statement said the Federation Accounts Allocation Committee agreed to distribute 661.427 billion naira and transfer 119.550 billion naira to the excess oil revenue account. This brings the balance in the excess crude account to $72.221 million. The 780.926 billion naira generated comprise statutory revenue, value-added tax and exchange gain, with a remarkable increase in taxes. Henshaw added that the April meeting was held through virtual conferencing in line with the social distancing campaign to curb the spread of the coronavirus. And from the economy, we join Zenrate in Jos for measures taken by Plateau State to curtail the spread of COVID-19. Hello.
Hello, Hawa, and thanks for joining us in Jos. To address the yearnings of Plateau State people for palliatives to cushion the effect of the lockdown, the State COVID-19 Palliative Committee has stated its commitment to ensure that the poor and vulnerable will be taken care of. Cameron Kaneng-Ladoja reports that the committee briefed the press after its inaugural meeting.
The 25-man Plateau State COVID-19 Palliative Committee has the Deputy Governor, Professor Soni Tioden, as chairman and representation from different segments of society. Sourcing for donations, managing donations, keeping records and equitable distribution of palliatives are the terms of reference of the committee. To ensure equitable distribution at the local government and ward levels, the local government chairman will chair the committees in their various areas, with representation from women groups, religious, youth and people with special needs, and the most senior traditional ruler as members. The committee says the palliatives will be effectively distributed to the vulnerable.
The widows, the disabled people, and the aged. So we expect that each committee at each level will focus on these people after an objective identification of the people in the various categories. Once the resources expand, we will also expand the scope of those that are involved.
Also, to ensure efficacy of the committee, there will be 4 subcommittees to cover procurement, donations, transportation and logistics, as well as distribution. The committee says it is committed to making the period of the lockdown and beyond bearable for all residents of the state. In Jos, Cameron Kaneng-Ladoja, NTA News.
Justice Rita Dashe Selkur of the COVID-19 Mobile Court in Jos, Court 2 in Jos, has sentenced 7 persons and 4 minors to 14-day quarantine with a fine of 10,000 naira each for contravening the lockdown order by the Plateau State government. Bilkisunuhu has details.
A ruling on a 2-count charge, Justice Selkur described the violators as risk-takers who are bound to cause untold hardship to the state in spite of the lockdown order. She said knowing fully well the risks they took by following illegal routes to come into the state is not enough reason not to convict them, since they have contravened the stay-at-home order of the Plateau State government. Delivering her judgment, Justice Selkur ordered that the violators be immediately put under 14 days quarantine at the isolation center in Mangu and pay the sum of 10,000 naira each as fine.
That we made an application before the court, that the Honorable Court directs that they be kept in an isolation center under the supervision of medical experts, directly under the watchful eyes of the Plateau State Commissioner for Health, so that for 14 days, for them to undergo the routine medical checkup, at the end of which the next line of action will be taken.
The violators include 1 from Lagos, 2 from Benin, and 4 from Kaduna states, and 4 minors who smuggled their way into Jos and were arrested by vigilantes along the Bauchi-Jos border. In Jos, Bilkis Sunuhu, NTA News.
That's it from Jos. It's back to Hawa in Abuja for the continuation of Nationwide.
Thanks, Zenret. Moving on in Abuja, relief has come the way of the people of Kogi West Senatorial District as Senator Smart Adeyemi commenced distribution of food items and other commodities to support the poor and vulnerable against COVID-19. Solomon Ayede reports.
The backdrop of the global outbreak of coronavirus, which has killed thousands worldwide, and subsequent restriction of movement to contain its spread in states of the Federation, Kogi inclusive, it became imperative for spirited Nigerians to team up with the government to provide palliatives to cushion the effect of the stay-at-home policy on the populace. It was in line with these that Senator Smart Adeyemi, representing Kogi West Senatorial District in the Red Chamber, commenced the distribution of several hundred bags of rice in his hometown in Iyara, headquarters of Ijomu local government area, for onward distribution to the people of the constituency. Also distributed was 5,000 face masks to further check the spread of COVID-19.
We have preached to them about the need for them to be very more conscious and aware of the deadly disease so-called COVID-19.
And if your simple should not go out, and it's also becoming very difficult for them to sustain themselves with food items in their various homes, it becomes very necessary for leaders to come up with palliatives of such.
It's a wonderful gesture. It will be distributed to everybody.
The senator appealed to those in charge of the distribution to do it with equity and fairness, adding that more should be expected from him in days ahead. Solomon Ayedehi, NTA News.
And worried by the increasing cases of COVID-19 on daily basis, the Oni of Ife, Oba Adeyeye Ogunwusi, is donating 72 motorized fumigation machines to the 36 states of Nigeria, including the Federal Capital Territory, to support the effort at combating the pandemic. Correspondent Rotimi Akomo reports that the machines were inaugurated in Ife town, Osun State.
The fumigation motorized machine, which is capable of fumigating 2 kilometers radius within 20 minutes, is locally built in Ile-Ife to augment government efforts. The modular fumigator machines were test-run within the palace before the fumigation exercise began in some major streets of the ancient city of Ile-Ife. Oba Adeyeye Ogunwusi emphasized the need for more innovative ways of fighting the scourge of the coronavirus.
Way and manner fumigation is being done. It has actually become a global mockery. What is being done in the Western world. Pulled all the youths together, maintained all the rules and regulation, and we started fabricating this. We have now decided to give it for free to all the 36 states of this country.
The monarch urged Nigerians to use the current lockdown to come out with ideas that could curb the spread of coronavirus in the world. From Ile-Ife, Rotimi Akamo, NTA News.
And Chinyeye is on standby in our Enugu Network Center for more reports on Nationwide. Hello, you're on.
Thank you, Hawa. Good evening and welcome to Enugu. Anambra State government has discharged its COVID-19 index case in the state as its second result tested negative. Governor Willie Obiano, who announced this during a news briefing, directed the compulsory use of face masks by the people of the state. Ndem Kalu completes the report.
The index case was discharged after his second result tested negative. Governor Obiano stated that samples of 39 people who had direct contact with the index case have been submitted for tests, while commending the people for their cooperation.
This is to ensure that we do not need any loopholes in our fight against this pandemic. I'll keep you posted on the outcome of the test once the results are out. However, the danger is not over yet. I count on your support and commitment as we reach the finishing line to ensure that we are firmly on track here.
The governor, who announced compulsory use of face mask by any individual before coming out, maintained that all boundaries with neighboring communities remain closed as intercity and intercommunity movements in the state remain suspended. He noted that food markets in the state are to open only on Tuesdays and Fridays.
From today onward, it has become compulsory to wear a face mask in Anambra State.
Citizens are urged to continue to adhere to government directives while maintaining high personal hygiene. From Aguleri, Ndem Kalu, NTN News.
Students and pupils in Enugu State are taking advantage of the ongoing radio lessons recently introduced by the Enugu State government for skills children. This followed the closure of schools and lockdown occasioned by the coronavirus pandemic. The report.
Cultism can be seen as practices or activities of a group of people who have extreme religious belief.
This is a lesson on civic education running on the radio airwaves for junior secondary school students in Enugu State. Other subjects being aired include English language, mathematics, physics, basic science, French, Igbo language, among others. The Enugu Radio School, powered by the Enugu State government in partnership with Radio Nigeria Coal City FM, was organized to help the pupils and students in this period of lockdown against the COVID-19 pandemic, especially for those preparing to take the WAEC and Common Entrance examinations.
The teachers from different schools in Enugu come to Radio Nigeria to teach on radio subjects for students at home in order to engage them and make them busy.
And as a director, thought it was wise for this venture to come up, which the children at home are benefiting immensely.
The lessons run for an hour from 11 o'clock in the morning to 12 noon daily for primary school pupils and from 5 to 6 o'clock in the evening for secondary school students. The radio lesson is also streamlined on the social media platform at Enugu Radio School. It is hoped that residents of Enugu would avail their children and wards this golden opportunity to learn by hooking up to the various media. In Enugu, Chineye NTN. And that is it from Enugu. Nationwide continues with Hawa in Abuja after this commercial break. Do stay.
Today, the cessation of movement, physical distancing measures, and the prohibition of mass gatherings remain the most efficient and effective way of reducing the transmission of the virus. By sustaining these measures, combined with extensive testing and contact tracing, we can take control and limit the spread of the disease.
It's time to take responsibility. So I'm staying home, watching videos and learning as well. We are all aware of the pandemic hitting the world today. The COVID-19 virus is real. A big thank you to all our health workers, doctors, nurses, everybody fighting this pandemic in their own way. Please stay home, save lives. Prevention is better than cure. Stay responsible. It's time to take responsibility. So I'm staying home, watching videos and learning as well. We are all aware of the pandemic hitting the world today. The COVID-19 virus is real. A big thank you to all our health workers, doctors, nurses, everybody fighting this pandemic in their own way. Please stay home, save lives. Prevention is better than cure. Stay responsible.
Over the past few seasons, Airtel Touching Lives has helped to empower and uplift thousands of Nigerians. And this season was no different.
People are really suffering.
I still have a hope.
I know that God doesn't leave things halfway.
Thank you to all our viewers for inviting us into your homes and sharing in our journey as we continue to change lives.
There is a lot of fake news and report circulating, especially on social media, on the coronavirus. Do not believe or partake in the spread of these fake reports. If it is not on the official website or news from the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, disregard such report. Only together can we beat this virus. Only together can we overcome this pandemic. Follow the instructions and guidelines provided to combat this virus. Most importantly, stay at home. Self-isolate, regardless of your status. The virus doesn't move unless we move. Let us work together to better Nigeria. Together, we can do this. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Thanks for rejoining Nationwide. Supporting the national response to COVID-19 is now a priority, and the Nigerian Air Force is enhancing its aeromedical evacuation systems in response to the national health emergency. Defense correspondent Najatu Tijani reports.
It's a matter of life and death for this patient being evacuated to the Nigerian Air Force C-130 cargo aircraft. Though a simulation, the NAF says it is not taking any chances as this scenario could play out in real life if more cases of COVID-19 are confirmed.
In the past, we used to evacuate patients with these aircraft, but we didn't have stretchers and other life support equipment like we have them here today. And this is not only for COVID-19, it can be wounded soldiers in the battlefield.
This is why the nurses and flight crew have been trained in aeromedical evacuation. I'm in the Charlie 130, the C-130 Hercules cargo aircraft, which can carry anything from trucks to troops, but has now been converted to a mobile air hospital, so to speak, with a life support system, a ventilator for patients suspected of having COVID-19, which can carry 76 patients to various isolation centers across the country. Meanwhile, the Armed Forces of Nigeria, through the Directorate of Defense Media Operations, says it has destroyed compounds housing Boko Haram terrorists through its Air Task Force of Operation Lafiya Dole at Pulawa in Borno State. And troops of Operation Hadarindaji have neutralized more than 20 bandits at Zirimi local government area in Zamfara state. Unfortunately, 4 of the soldiers paid the ultimate price in the encounter. And in Lagos, the Nigerian Navy ship Bini has rescued a Beninois crew after its fishing vessel caught fire. Najatu Tijani, NTA News.
And still on COVID-19, the control measures put in place at the international borders following the federal government's restriction order have in no little way stemmed the importation of the coronavirus into the country. From the waterways to the hinterlands, officers and men of the Nigeria Immigration Service are not leaving anything to chance as they intensify surveillance around entry and exit points in Cross River State. Umar Basi Edit has more.
Armed
with a presidential order that all borders should remain closed. The Cross River State Command of the Nigerian Immigration Service has made the patrol of the borders as well as the hinterlands a daily exercise. Beyond enforcing security, the sensitization of the rural communities is also a duty carried out by the officers.
One of the things we noticed while we were on patrol in some of the community was that they were not even aware that there's anything called coronavirus.
Cross River State has a peculiar terrain, talking about the waterways and the creeks. And so, to tackle emerging challenges, the Nigerian Immigration Service says it has deployed more personnel to the creeks to ensure that the borders are well secured. The command had earlier arrested 13 persons, including 8 foreigners, for attempting to defy the federal government's restriction order. In Calabar, Umar Basadate, NTA News.
And still staying with Cross River, the state government has started the recruitment of 8,000 unemployed youth as part of measures to cushion the economic hardship caused by the COVID-19. Paul Abel reports that the exercise is holding in Calabar and other local government areas across the state.
The palliatives being distributed through traditional and religious leaders are meant for the poor and elderly, but for those within the ages of 18 and 35, the policy of the state government is to enable them to be self-reliant, even under the lockdown. The job placement covers the agro-allied industries in the state, namely agriculture, environment, security, among others, and expectant beneficiaries say this is laudable.
The little token given to me will help me and my family to sustain.
God is going to really bless the governor for bringing this platform.
The state government says keeping youths without engaging them meaningfully throughout the lockdown and beyond is a potential time bomb.
We have so many industries we have built, and so we're doing mass recruitment to those industries. But 5,000 will go into agriculture, cultivation and raising of new seedlings, new propagules.
The 30,000 naira monthly job for successful applicants is a permanent one.
The beneficiaries here are not only appreciative of the fact that these will provide for them on their table, but it will also create security in the state. In Calabar, Paul Abel, NTA News.
And from Calabar, we go to Kano, where the state government has begun the distribution of foodstuff to less privileged as part of measures to cushion the effect of the lockdown order imposed to contain the spread of the COVID-19. Governor Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, during the flag-off ceremony, disclosed that 50,000 households are targeted in the first batch of the exercise. Abdullahi Mustafa reports.
The assorted food items were sourced through donations from individuals and organizations in response to Kano State Government's appeal for support to the less privileged. The first consignment is to be distributed to 50,000 households across the 44 local government areas of the state.
For each polling unit, we have taken 4 poorest of the poor households. So this distribution.
Each household is to receive a 25-kilogram bag of rice, cooking oil, carton of spaghetti, and 2,000 naira. The items were handed over to local government representatives for onward distribution to the targeted beneficiaries. In Kano, Abdullahi Mustafa, NTA News.
A report just in says Nigeria has secured the release of 60 of her nationals serving various jail terms in Tanzania prisons. The Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, in a statement by its head of media and public relations, Abdul Rahman Balogun, says efforts are underway to secure the release of the remaining 13 Nigerians. The commission says most of the convicts were arrested for drug-related offenses, while a few of the offenses bordered on violation of immigration law. The statement adds that arrangements are being made by the Nigerian mission in Tanzania for the repatriation of the released prisoners. Nigeria joined other countries in making a plea for amnesty for prisoners during this COVID-19 period. Sticking to the right attitude, experts have advised Nigerians is the best way to contain COVID-19. They were speaking on NTA's current affairs program, Moment for Thought, as they stressed government's effort on projections for a stable economy.
The effect of COVID-19 on our education is something we are going to reap in the future. We have to brace ourselves. We have to prepare and not to pretend that it is only a health issue.
We have 3.5 trillion on the table from the CBN, 774 local governments, 1,000 jobs per local government. We're targeting employment. So I'm quite happy with that.
The program comes up tonight at 12 midnight on the network service of the NTA. Moving on, if there is any time to take climate-sensitive action, that time is now, with the coronavirus pandemic proving to humanity that man can limit his destruction of nature. Onengie Fine-Face in this report examines the imperative of action to sustain gains recorded by the ecosystem under global lockdown within the framework of the World Earth Day 2020.
In the words of Ni Oshundare, a poet, the earth is ours to plow and plant. Our earth is an unopened greenhouse, a bustling barn in some far uncharted jungle, a distant gem in a rough unhappy dust. This earth is ours to work, not to waste, ours to man, not to maim. This earth is ours to plow, not to plunder. These words bemoan the attitude of man who plunders, exploits and maims the earth for profit and pleasure.
Our exploitative use of the ecosystem has led to reduced options for future use temporarily or permanently, as well as disruptions of biogeochemical cycles, as well as emerging infectious diseases like we're witnessing now.
Like Oshundare, the global community is speaking against the beleaguered natural world laid waste by capital pursuits. World Earth Day, celebrated for 50 years now, mobilizes humanity to protect the earth.
It's a time to determine that we're going to halt deforestation. A time we're going to determine that we're not going to carry on polluting in the way we've been doing in the past. And in fact, it's time for Nigeria to dramatically shift away from dependence on petroleum resources for national revenue and as well as for power generation.
The theme for 2020, Climate Action, presents opportunities for man to rethink his actions to protect rather than plunder the earth. And COVID-19 is forcing the world to do this.
There is really so much that we can do as stakeholders to ensure that Mother Earth is preserved. This is the only planet that we have where we actually can live. So it's up to us to ensure that we preserve this earth.
For those who still intend to destroy the ecosystem, like Oshundare, we ask, are they of this earth who live that earth may die? But for those who would act to protect the earth, we take comfort in the assurance of the poet that our earth will see again. Onengie Fine-Face, NTA News.
Thanks, Onengie. And the Benue State Governor, Samuel Otom, has ordered the complete facelift of the General Hospital Boko for efficient and effective healthcare delivery, especially during this period of coronavirus pandemic. He gave the directive when he inspected the COVID-19 isolation center donated to the state government. Charles Abba completes the report.
General Hospital Boko, which was established in 1975, has continued to cater for the health needs of the community and its environs. As a proactive initiative to tame the tide of the pandemic, a team of health practitioners made their contribution by the donation of an isolation center. Governor Samuel Otom, who appreciated the gesture, made a personal donation of 5 million naira to the project and directed the Commissioner for Health and Human Services, Dr. Sunday Ongbabo, and that of Housing and Urban Development, Epe Obu, to immediately evaluate the cost of dilapidation of the facility for onward submission to the state government for necessary action.
Similar hospitals in Benue State that have not been given attention for over 40 years still exists. but we had to start from somewhere.
The governor also ordered people encroaching into the hospital's land to keep off or face the wrath of the law. Meanwhile, the governor also inspected the ongoing work on the Tortue Palace and commended the quality of job done and pledged to do all within government's resources to ensure that the project is completed within 2 months.
This is a very noble project that should be completed for the paramount ruler to settle down so that he can discharge his duties.
The money is not easy by now, so whatever the governor can arrange with him, let him go ahead and make the Tea people proud.
The contract for the project, which was awarded 2 years ago, has reached 90% completion. From Boko, Charles Abba, NTA News.
And from Benue to Taraba, where we understand that there is high level of compliance in Jalingo, the state capital, with total lockdown directed by the state government. Joseph Hussein reports that the order is, however, indefinite.
Taraba State is moving from partial lockdown to total lockdown. The state government has directed that all should stay at home with the exemption of essential duty workers. The lockdown commenced 22nd April 2020 from 11 o'clock in the night.
This has become necessary in view of the increasing number of confirmed cases in our neighboring states. In spite of the fact that we have not recorded any confirmed case in Taraba State, we must not be complacent.
The lockdown, however, allows the public a window between 10 o'clock in the morning and 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Wednesdays and Saturdays to make essential household purchases.
All violators of this directive will be arrested and prosecuted. Vehicles found on the road during the period of lockdown will be impounded. A mobile court will be established to promptly try offenders at various points of entry into the state.
In preparation for the isolation period, Jalingo, the state capital, witnessed mad rush with increasing number of vehicles on the roads and markets witnessing beehive of activities. In Jalingo, Joseph Saundo 10, NTA News.
Necessity, it is said, is the mother of invention. Here is one good example, though not an invention in the true sense of the word. Following the continuous lockdown of courts and other judicial activities in the country, the National Judicial Council has held its 45th council meeting through video conferencing with all the 24 members of council participating from their various jurisdictions across the country. Judiciary correspondent Femi Okewo monitored the meeting from the NJC headquarters in Abuja.
This virtual meeting of the National Judicial Council has been a long way coming. Indeed, the process was started since 2012, and the situation in the country or in the world generally, the pandemic, has triggered this and made it faster. Now, for the first time in the history of Nigeria's judiciary, the administrative body that administers judiciary across the country is having a meeting in Abuja.
Good morning, my lord.
Presided over by the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Ibrahim Tanko Mohammed, the National Judicial Council is the highest administrative organ of the nation's judiciary. This meeting is a regular one in the running of the nation's judiciary. But in view of the COVID-19 pandemic, one of the items on the agenda of the meeting would be to fine-tune the use of virtual and internet processes for the circulation of court processes and judgments. But for now, the meeting and the administration of the judiciary in Nigeria does not have to draw the physical attendance of members. Like in the case of this council meeting, only 5 out of the 24-member council were physically present in Abuja, along with the secretary of the council, Gambo Sali. Other members just remained in their jurisdiction and were part of the meeting through virtual processes. In Abuja, Femi Okewo, NTA News.
And the weather prospects for Friday is next. That's Nationwide today. We thank you for watching. Do remember to stay safe. Good evening.